All right, hello, welcome. Today is going to be, I want to share story that is quite personal, but just more of who I am uh, and the transformation I've had from that story. And it's very much on the theme of me in my life. I haven't felt like I have belonged with those my age often. The conversations I was wanting to have, the things I was wanting to do were different most of the time than those my age, those I was hanging around. And so most of my years in college, and frankly, to this day, I never felt I belonged with those who were 23, with those who were young 20s. It just was like, I'm me. I'm going to have to force myself to belong. I'm going to just feel like an outsider forever. And that really plagued me because it was both, I didn't feel like I could belong with those who were my age. And I had most friends who were older than me, but I also didn't feel I belonged there because I didn't have kids, or I wasn't married, or um, I wasn't 30 years old. And it was just like, if I didn't see I belonged with those my age, and I didn't see I belonged with those who were older than me. And so I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. Yes, I enjoyed the conversations with those who were older than me. But at the same time, I still created this difference between us, which was, you're 10 years older than me, you're 20 years older than me. And I often could not receive what they would say when they would be like, wow, you're 23. When I was 23 at your age, I was doing this. And I often couldn't hear that. And how I came to this being and this understanding was, I was just at a retreat this last week, a shadow retreat. And the shadow is essentially, you could call it a cave, but it's the pieces of us, the parts of us that we don't want to be. And the best way I explained it to my friend was, when we think of something that is super scary, but we haven't done it yet, right? We're like, we have an exam coming up, or there's something in our lives that we're like overwhelmed by, we're anxious about, we're imagining what it could be and how horrible it can be and what it could be. But we haven't even done it. And then you go and do it and you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Or actually, there was actually some beautiful things within that. And so for 3.5 days last week, I was going into parts of myself that were intensely scary, just pieces of loneliness, of belonging, of things that made no sense to be, like to feel in. Like, why would it make sense for me to feel lonely? Why would it make sense for me to feel that I don't belong? Like, that didn't make sense to me. But what it was saying was, once I was able to feel the not belonging, I was able to see it's not as scary as I had made it out to be. I was able to go in and experience it, and understand honestly the beauty in it as well. And I'll explain exactly what I mean by that in 1 second. And so with this idea and this theme of like, I never really felt like I belonged with those who were my age, because I wanted to have deeper conversations. That was just what I was inclined to do, and it just felt more natural. But I was at dinner at the retreat, and we were finishing dinner, and one of the attendees came up to me. He's a coach. He has, I think, 4 kids. And he said, Ben, I really appreciated what you had shared in the circle earlier today. And I had shared some of my own just coming into, I'd shared on like loneliness for me, of like just not feeling or being afraid of what it would be like to be alone. And he was just appreciative of that. And he's like, you being 23 and it's pretty incredible. And I couldn't hear it. I was like, thank you so much. But like, how was your dinner? And a guy next to me, and mind you, this retreat is all coaches. And the guy next to me stops us and he says, whoa, whoa, whoa. How do you go from being complimented on the vulnerability you shared in the circle today to asking him about his fish and chips at dinner? And to me, that was an invitation, not to say there was something wrong with that, but an invitation of, am I trying to avoid something? And I didn't want to hear what he was saying. And the reason was, I didn't, mm, the reason was I couldn't handle not belonging. I was so, when I'm with people who are older than me, I would hide being 23. And so by him saying when I was 23, I felt like he was separating us. And I just so desperately wanted to belong. So by deflecting his compliment of, oh, you're 23, I was trying to protect myself from not belonging. And so as I'm realizing this, I'm like, okay, I could live the rest of my life passing by not being forward about my age, how young I am. And I'm also a coach and I'm also doing these things. Or I could delve into it, or I could go into it. And so what I was able to do was, in this process of the shadow, of going into that cave, I was able to look at not belonging as a beautiful piece. I was able to see it as, when we don't belong somewhere, we don't feel like we are belonging. One, it hurts, and to acknowledge that. But two, when we don't belong somewhere, that means there's another place that we do belong. That means there's something else. And the more I try and belong in a place that I don't belong, the more I'm not allowing myself to find a place I do belong. And so it's a little bit of the faith that I offer you, of like trusting that there is a place for you to belong. And more than anything, that just is a trust that you belong to yourself, that I belong to me, like that I am 23, that I do also love deeper conversations, that I don't resonate with most people my age, most of my friends are older than me, and just accepting that piece for me. And I think that has really allowed me to understand that I do love not belonging, because when I don't belong somewhere, that means, one, I don't need to force that, but two, I get to give myself the belonging in the moment, and also trust that there's another place out there where I do belong. And the where I run into troubles is if I'm trying to force my way into places I don't belong, because I just want to belong the entire time. And that's just a level of letting go of unattachment, letting go and being okay. And so that is what I wanted to share. Belonging to ourselves and not belonging is beautiful. How can we love not belonging? That's all for today. Peace.